Police officer posts photo online. Her boss sees it and calls her into his office. Her heart's beating fast while she tries to take a deep breath and calm herself down. She didn't know what her boss was going to say, but nonetheless she readied her best excuses. She was just expressing herself. Aren't women allowed to do that? All of her tense thoughts were broken by the boom of her boss's voice. "Adrian, come in." She slowly got up and walked into the office. As she entered through the door, though, she felt her stomach twist in knots, as she knew something was wrong. From that day, her life would never be the same. Adrian was so passionate about her job. She lived in Dresden, Germany. Dresden was like any other city and had its fair share of crime. That's what made it so important that Adrian did her best when it came to her job. It had been a long time since she was in training, and these days she was a full-fledged officer with experience under her belt. In the years she'd been on the force, she'd never had an incident, not until one day. Adrian was almost as passionate about gyming as she was about her job. She worked meticulously to make sure she had the right diet and workout schedule. She decided to give insight into her workouts by posting them on social media. She didn't know what repercussions this would have. Not even Adrian knew how popular her posts would become. She could never have predicted the impact they would have on her life and how they would change everything. Her posts were just workout videos, but to people watching they were much more. The posts become popular and Adrian would become a social media icon. Adrian really liked the attention she was getting. Her posts were getting admiration everywhere. After her posts grew so much, it wasn't just strangers around the world that saw her posts. Soon her colleagues started seeing her posts too. Adrian loved her work as a police officer and also loved her social media presence. In her mind, she could have both. She still gave her job everything she had, and when she got home she'd use her social media as a way to enjoy herself after work. She could never have foreseen that an event would question her way of living. It's not like she was hiding her posts from her work. They saw her account and hadn't said anything until now. After working as a police officer for many years, Adrian felt she needed a break. She applied for 6 months of leave and felt confident that her Instagram sponsorships would keep the bills paid. No one at work seemed to have an issue with it. She wanted to treat her loyal fans. She couldn't see any flaws in her plan, but would soon find that her dreams would be shattered. After having an amazing time away from her job, Adrian returns back feeling like a different person. Her social media presence had blown up even more during her break. She had more than 500,000 followers now, and people had begun calling her the most beautiful police officer in the world on news sites and media. But now that she was so popular, her colleagues began questioning her dedication to her job. They felt like her social media presence was hindering her professionalism in her career. Their next move to deal with the issue would have Adrian in despair. Adrian had seen trolls before and knew how to deal with them. They tried every insult that they could think of, but still, none of them could affect her. But what she heard from her colleagues caught her off guard. At the police station, her colleagues weren't as impressed by her account as her fans were. They didn't like the attention she drew and thought the only thing to do was to be harsh. When Adrian donned her uniform for the first time after her break and walked into the station, she felt ready for anything. All her colleagues seemed happy to see her. But before the day was over, her boss blindsided her and asked if he could speak to her privately. She knew from his tone something was very wrong. Her palms started sweating as the adrenaline started to course through her body. Adrian knew her boss was reasonable and tried to think of why he wanted to see her. It didn't stop her from questioning the situation. Was it social media? She knew that it was getting everyone's attention. Was it just too much for her boss? Was she on thin ice and this was the last straw? She just hoped it wouldn't tarnish her career as she nervously waited for her boss to tell her what he wanted to say. Was her career at an end? One of the first things that Adrian's boss told her is that crime hadn't disappeared while she was gone, and the police department was extremely understaffed. But Adrian was confused by what her boss said. Were they mad at her? Was she in trouble? Was she about to be fired? Or were they welcoming her with open arms because they actually needed her? She couldn't wait any longer. She needed to find out now. The Dresden police indeed needed Adrian to be part of the force, but they were also furious. Her boss was disappointed with her for posting countless inappropriate bikini pictures of herself for the whole world to see, claiming that that wasn't what a policewoman should be doing. He also told her that higher police department authorities had also seen what she was doing and that they weren't happy with her. Although they didn't want to fire her, they were still furious about her pictures online. In their eyes, she had brought shame on the whole department. But would they let her keep working? After much discussion amongst themselves, the department decided to give Adrienne a choice. She could continue working at the police station if she wanted to because they needed her help. However, they did have one requirement from her. She'd have to get rid of her other job. There was no way Adrienne could have both of them. If Adrienne wanted to return to her job, she'd have to give up her life as an Instagram model and influencer. This also meant that she'd have to give back all that money that she received from companies for promoting their brand. It was a big decision, and Adrienne had to do a lot of thinking. But time was running out. After staying silent on Instagram for a few months, finally, Adrienne broke her silence. She took to Instagram to tell her fans that she was actually going to continue being a police officer. "I'm going to work," she declared in a video she posted on Instagram. "I'm going back on the beat. I'm putting my uniform on." And with that, she ended the video and went back to work. But would she be able to resist temptation? After Adrienne had made her decision to return to the police force, her fans and followers thought that they'd never hear from her again. Then, Adrienne boldly began to post pictures on Instagram again. Was she openly defying her boss? And would she get fired for good this time? What was going on? Adrienne had decided that she was willing to give up on her dream of being an influencer, but not entirely. So, she reached a compromise that she and her boss were happy with. The deal they made was that Adrienne would continue to post pictures and fitness videos on Instagram, but her sidekick couldn't interfere with her work on the police force. It turned out that it wasn't just Adrienne's colleagues who were unhappy about her double life. Her boyfriend was less than thrilled that her photos were out there for the world to see, and his demands were a lot more unreasonable than her boss. In fact, he wasn't willing to put up with Adrienne's online fame at all. Once it was clear to Adrienne's boyfriend that she wasn't going to put an end to her influencer career, he put an end to the relationship. But Adrienne doesn't let other people's opinions of her get her down. "Life isn't always a bowl of cherries," she mused. But does she have regrets? When Adrienne reflects on her life and her decisions, she doesn't regret her choices. She's proud of her achievements and grateful for the opportunities that life presented her with. And while not everyone agrees with her lifestyle choices, she's learned to follow her heart and ignore the haters. She's even managed to balance her career and her passion.